Enroll your child for the manifested e-learning platform and see their grades grow tremendously. These videos can be downloaded to a laptop for offline viewing or viewed from a smartphone in a cost-friendly format.
Hey learners, welcome back to Manifested Online Classes. I'm your teacher, Masimboya. In the previous lesson, we studied about noun derivations, and we also discussed about suffixes, talked about the fact that we use the suffixes to form nouns, and we can actually form nouns from verbs, we can form nouns from adjectives, we can actually form nouns from nouns themselves. I also defined what a suffix was, and I told you that a suffix is actually contributes to the meaning of the word. So after you take a verb and add a suffix to it, the meaning of that particular suffix actually contributes now to the meaning of the new noun that is formed. So we talked about two suffixes. We talked about the suffix er and the suffix e, and we saw the different words that can, the different nouns that could actually be formed from the same suffixes. I also gave an assignment for you to attempt doing. I hope you've done the assignment. In case you faced any challenges, feel free to ask questions or do confirm with the dictionary and just correct yourselves where you went wrong. This lesson, I want us to continue still with the nouns. Remember, I said that we were not done with the suffixes. So in this lesson, we're going to cover 3 different suffixes. So we're still talking about noun derivations. I also want you to remember that we still going on with English Form 3 grammar. In the previous lesson, we had already talked about 2 suffixes that are used to change verbs to nouns. The first one that we had actually talked about was the suffix er, and we said this suffix is used to denote the doer. It means the doer of an action, and of course I'd given a lot of examples, so I'll not wish to go back to that. Then we talked about a second suffix, which is e, and then we said that this denotes the receiver of the action that actually that noun is formed from. Now we will proceed to the third one, which is ness. So ness is a suffix that is used to denote the state of being, condition, or a quality. So I'll just underline that so that you can be able to see that clearly. So the suffix ness is used to denote all this. We add the suffix ness mostly to adjectives, and I'm going to give a few examples so that you can get what I'm saying. So we are going to have the adjectives on this side. Then of course, you know the suffix that we are working with, which is ness. And then here we'll have now the noun that is formed. And then we're going to start with the first noun. We could have a noun, an adjective. So we could have an adjective such as kind. If we add ness to this one, we get the noun kindness. So when we add ness, we mostly get nouns that are actually abstract nouns. But the abstract nouns are used to denote either of these, either a state of being, a condition, or actually a quality. So we have actually talked about kindness. And then we could have something else like happy. So this one actually becomes happiness. So there's something else that I would also like for you to note when it comes to adding suffixes to adjectives. So for the word happy, it actually already ends with a y, but we cannot add the ness when we have the y. So For the adjectives that actually end in y and are preceded by a consonant, like this one, P is actually a consonant, we drop the y and then we replace it with I and then we add the ness. I hope that one is clear. So for this one, you do not need to add the ness already here. But then when we look at other adjective, like the adjective thin, if you want to form a noun from this using this suffix, this one will becomes thinness. So in this case, we do not need to drop the n. We'll just retain the n and then we add the suffix that we have. So make sure that you take note of that. However, something else that I would also like for you to take note of is not all adjectives that you add ness to form to actually form nouns. So there are some exceptions to this particular rule. Of course, keep doing your research so that you may get as many examples as possible. We could also have more examples. I could give you something like soft. So here we could also get another example of an adjective. We have good. This one becomes goodness. And then we could also have another adjective like shy. So this one becomes shyness. As you have noticed, we had said that for happy, because it's actually ending with a y and proceeded with a p, you drop the y and then you add an I and then you have ness. But as you can see, for shy does not fall into that rule. So some of the rules that we talk about are not actually always comprehensive. They do not touch on all adjectives. So you need also to make sure that you make use of your dictionary to confirm some of these things. We had discussed that ness is used to denote a state of being. So let's look at our first adjective here. We have kind. When we add the suffix, it actually forms a noun, which is kindness. So this means this is a state of being kind. Let's also look at happy. Happy, we add the suffix, we have happiness, meaning that this is actually a state of being happy. With the others, you could actually just do the same. All of them are just describing a state of being something. And remember, I also said that when you add this suffix, you form a noun, which is actually an abstract noun. We can now move on to the next suffix, which is ism. ISM. So just as in the case for this suffix that we've talked about here, ness, this one is also used. It also forms nouns which are actually abstract nouns. The only difference is that now the abstract nouns that are formed using this suffix actually communicate different things from these ones. So for the ism, it forms abstract nouns which talk about movements. They also talk about ideologies and beliefs. For example, I'm going to give my first example. When you look at a word like capitalist, when we say maybe that that a country a country is a capitalist country, when we add this suffix to this word, we actually have a new word, which is capitalism. So this now is actually a movement, capitalism. When you also look at another word like a Buddhist, when we replace this one with the suffix ism here, we form a noun which says Buddhism. And actually Buddhism is actually a type of a religious movement. And then we could also get another example like Marxist. When we replace this one, we form a new word which is actually Marxism. So for this one, most of the words or most of the nouns that are actually formed here, they mostly talk about either political movements, economic movements, or actually social movements, or even some religions. So we could also have another one like socialist. When we say that a country is a socialist country, when we replace this with when we add this to our suffix, we form the word socialism, which also is actually a movement. The most important thing when learning these suffixes, just understand what they mean. If because as we've said, this suffix ism and ness actually form abstract nouns. So these ones and these ones are abstract nouns. The only difference now lies with the meanings of these words. The meanings of these ones and the meanings that are denoted by these ones are very different because of the difference in meaning of the suffix. So we can actually now move on to the last suffix that we are going to talk about today, which is the suffix ship. This one is also used to denote condition or also state. So for ship, it's actually very much related to ness. I'm going to start by giving examples. So the first word that I'm going to give here is a relation. So when we add the suffix ship to this one, we actually get relationship. We could also have some another word like king, which is actually a noun. When we add ship to this one, we actually get kingship. We can also have another. So you notice for this one, we actually most of the words that we are adding the suffix to are actually nouns. Because look at the word king, look at the word friend. So we add this one to ship, we actually end up with the word friend. We could also have the word kin, we actually end up with kinship. So just do a lot of research or look for as many examples as possible for you to be able to understand how these suffixes work. So the main trick also is knowing that we have two types of suffixes and the difference between the two types, and understanding that the suffixes that we've actually been discussing here are derivational. They are responsible for a change in meaning, and at the same time, they are also responsible for a change in the word class of a word. They can change a word from a verb to a noun, or from a noun to a verb, and also from an adjective to an adjective to a noun, sorry. So make sure that you research on them, as many as possible, but there are many. I've just picked out the most important. So this marks the end of our lesson. So we're just going to do a brief recap of all the things that we've studied during this lesson. So remember, these two suffixes had been introduced in the previous lesson. So the ones that may be watching this lesson and have not watched the other lesson, make sure you go back and listen to what we said regarding these two suffixes. So we started with the first suffix, which was ness. I told you that this suffix is actually used to express a state of being, a condition, or actually a quality. Then I gave examples, and then I gave exceptions of how some words, some adjectives actually behave when you try to add the suffix to them. Some have to drop a letter, others actually just, like the word thin or stubborn, you do not need to drop the n so that you can add the suffix. You just add the suffix to the word as it is. Then we moved on to talk about another suffix, which is ism. So we say this suffix is used to talk about movements. So we say the movements can be political movements, religious movements, social movements, economic movements, and then ideologies or actually beliefs. So we gave a few examples here where we have capitalist changing to capitalism, Buddhist changing to Buddhism, Marxist changing to Marxism, socialist changing to socialism. And then we moved on to the last type, which is sheep. So for sheep, I said that this one is used to denote a condition or actually a state. And I said this one actually, the original word can either be a noun like king and friend and kin. These ones are nouns. And then we have the word relation here, which is actually a verb. And then when we add them, we form the words that I gave here. So we also say that they're used to denote condition and state. My advice for this section would be, take it easy, just understand what the suffix means. After you understand what the suffix means, it will be easier for you to form as many nouns as possible. So I'm going to give a brief assignment. It is important that you test whether you have understood, and I hope you've been taking notes so that when you find a question that you don't understand, you can refer back to the notes, or you could actually just ask me the questions. I'll write down your assignment here for you so that you copy it out. You can start now copying out the assignment. So it is good to make sure you do a lot of practice, as it's only through practice that you get to learn and understand most of the concepts. The assignment is very brief, just 5 sentences. The most important thing with assignments, especially in English, whether it's the assignments that you do in class or the exam that you actually get to sit for, are the instructions. Make sure before you start doing a question, you understand what the instructions mean. If you miss something within the instructions, you're bound to get the question wrong. We'll just go through the instructions so that you make sure that you've written the correct thing. The instructions are: add the appropriate suffix to the noun in brackets and use the new noun to fill in the blank spaces. We have already talked about the suffixes. So at this point, you're free to use the most appropriate suffix. And to identify, every set of instruction always has a keyword. The one which, if you don't understand that particular keyword, you're bound to get lost, or you will not be able to answer the questions. I cannot be able to point out to you the keyword because it's an assignment. Make sure that you can point out the keyword. So the first sentence, when I saw Ali, he showed symptoms of dash of breath. The noun that we have in brackets is short. The second sentence, there was no dash between Tanzu and Munga. The noun in bracket is relation. Then on to number 3, dash of the muscles is a sign of stress and accumulated fatigue. Then the noun in brackets is fatigue. Tired, sorry, not fatigue, tired. On to number 4, Manu treated his parents with some unusual dash. The noun in brackets is cold. Then most skin infections have symptoms such as dash and reddening of the skin. The noun in brackets is itchy. So make sure that you can understand the instructions and do the assignment before we meet in the next lesson. I hope everything that we've talked about is clear and you've actually made use of the lesson. You've actually also written some notes and you've understood what we have covered. So this marks the end of the lesson. Have a great time until next time. Bye.
Thank you for choosing to study with us. For more information, you can call us on 0724 173845.